So first of all, in your wildest dreams, did you think that it was going to be this popular?
No, no. I remember thinking, I think we'll get a couple of years with school groups because social studies teachers will want to cover like a semester of APUSH. I never thought that it would just resonate with so many people and in so many ways. I was just talking to the cast before I came over here, and one of them asked me, what's the biggest lesson? And I was like, it's a thing that continues to teach me, whether it's that cast member who met me at the stage door in 2015 and is on tour, like with this tour that's here in Chicago, or it's a doctor who posts a video about the new vaccines to the tune of my shot. I mean, every day I'm getting some new reverberation of the ripples this thing has put into the world. It's really crazy.
What do you think it is, specifically about the story, the show? What do you think it is?
I think the shows that we go back to again and again, and I'm thinking of the shows that I love. I'm thinking of Les Miserables, I'm thinking of Sweeney Todd. They kind of contain their own universe. There's a line that speaks to everything. You find yourself speaking in quotes from the show. Rent was a big one for me when I was growing up. But I also think that at the end of the day, what Hamilton is about is, what do we do with this one life we have? You're dealing with two really traumatized central characters who had experienced loss at a very young age, and they deal with that in radically different ways. It's not a difference of politics, it's a difference of temperament and how are we to be in the world. And then you have this third character, Eliza, who is a very different, and she lives the longest, and is inherently good. So I think it resonates with people because we're all alive and we're all trying to figure out what we're supposed to do while we're here.
And Chicago has been great for you. I mean,
yeah, it's so funny. I remember when we came here with the first. It was really the second company of Hamilton, and we set up shop here. And I watched with joy as that original Chicago company became a part of the fabric of Chicago and singing at Cubs games and all of the craziness that came with that. But I remember getting a lot of questions from reporters being like, "Why Chicago? Why Chicago?" I was like, "Because you are a great theater city, and you have to remember that like every day. You know, we live for communal experiences, especially now that we'd all been in lockdown for so many years. It's so important to support theater and get back out and experience the joy of being in a room with lots of other people and experiencing a story together. So I'm really happy and proud that Hamilton's back in Chicago. Chicago's been so wonderful to us.
And then I read that it took you 7 years to create the show, to write the show.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, I've been reflecting on that because it was like 5 years for just the first act. And then the second act, there's a moment where you're pushing a stalled car. And you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, and then there's a moment where you're chasing the car because it's going. And that was how I experienced writing the show. It was a huge push of research and compression to get that first act, and then I was just chasing the second act as it was unfolding.
Turns out, best 7 years you ever spent, huh?
It was pretty good. And you know, I want to sort of shout out my wife, who was sort of the secret weapon in that. She was like, "You are easily distractible." And so she would set up trips where we went to Nevis, where Hamilton was born, and she'd be like, "All right, we're going to the beach, go right." Or we'd stay at a friend's house in Long Island, and she'd be like, "All right, I'm staying with you for a week, and then you're staying by yourself with the dog for a week." This is before we had kids, when we could actually do this. And so she really kind of created all these impromptu writing residencies for me, and I'm really grateful to her for that.
And how did you pick Hamilton? Because I mean, like, those of us, you know, before this, we didn't really know who Hamilton was.
It's funny. It's one of those things where he was kind of everywhere and nowhere. All I knew was he died in a duel. His son died in a duel because I wrote a paper on him in 11th grade, and I knew he was the guy on the 10. That's really all I knew. But that was enough. You know, duels are not particularly commonplace nowadays, thank goodness. And I remember that was enough curiosity to get Ron Chernow's biography off the shelf at that Borders bookstore, R.I.P. Borders, and into my hands. And I was going on vacation. And this was a pre-Kindle, pre-e-reader era. So I just wanted like one big book to take. Couldn't take 50 books with me. And my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend and I went to Mexico, and by the end of the second chapter, I was Googling Alexander Hamilton musical because I couldn't believe no one had turned this into a musical. There was just so much incident, and it was so rich with story. And so I saw that no one had done it. I got to work.
Well, we saw people waiting in line to go see the show this afternoon.
Yeah.
Chicago loves it, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. No, it's and listen, we've just been, so embraced by Chicago. We opened a Hamilton exhibition here, and that was like an amazing experiment because the love for Hamilton here was just so strong, and it was a really wonderful moment. And I'm really excited that this company that has been to Alaska and been all over the country, San Antonio, gets to settle here for a while and experience the embrace of Chicago.